The Yellow Chair Classroom wishes all learners a very happy and a healthy, prosperous new year. Now let's go to Meet Benjamin Bunny. For few stories, there is no age bar at all. This is also a continuation of the Peter Rabbit classics, and now it is Benjamin Bunny and Peter Rabbit. It teaches the children the warmth of love and the tendency to help by showing the Benjamin Bunny's character. Enjoy to your heart content and make sure you use the grammar part that will follow. One morning, a little rabbit sat on the bank of a river. He pricked his ears and listened to the trit-trot of a pony. A gig was coming along the road. It was driven by Mr. McGregor, the gardener, and beside him sat Mrs. McGregor in her best bonnet. As soon as they passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid down into the road and set off with a hip, skip, and a jump to call upon his relations who lived in the wood at the back of Mr. McGregor's garden. That wood was full of rabbit holes, and in the neatest and sandiest hole of all lived Benjamin's aunt and his cousins Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Old Mrs. Rabbit earned her living by knitting rabbit wool mittens and muffets. She also sold herbs and rosemary tea and rabbit tobacco, which is what we call lavender.
Little Benjamin did not very much want to see his aunt. He came around the back of the fir tree and nearly tumbled upon the top of his cousin Peter. Peter was sitting by himself. He looked poorly and was dressed in a red cotton pocket handkerchief. "Peter," said little Benjamin in a whisper, "who has got your clothes?"
Peter replied, "The scarecrow in Mr. McGregor's garden," and described how he had been chased by the gardener, Mr. McGregor, and had dropped his shoes and coat. Little Benjamin sat down beside his cousin and assured him that Mr. Gregor had gone out in a gig with Mrs. Gregor, and certainly for the day, because she was wearing the best bonnet. Peter said he hoped that it would rain. At this point, old Mrs. Rabbit's voice was heard inside the rabbit hole, calling, "Cottontail, Cottontail, fetch me some more chamomile." Peter said he thought he might feel better if he went for a walk. Benjamin and Peter went away hand in hand and got upon the flat top of wall at the bottom of the wood. From here they looked down in McGregor's garden. Peter's coat and shoes were plainly to be seen upon the scarecrow, topped with an old tam-o'-shanter of Mr. Gregor's. Tam-o'-shanter is a sort of hat. Little Benjamin said, "It spoils people's clothes to squeeze under a gate. The proper way to get into the garden is to climb down a pear tree." Peter fell down first, but it was of no consequence as the bed below was newly raked and quite soft. It had been sown with lettuces. They left a great many odd little footmarks all of the bed, especially Benjamin, who was wearing clogs. Little Benjamin said that the first thing to be done was to get back Peter's clothes, in order that they might be able to use the red pocket handkerchief. They took out the clothes of the scarecrow. There had been rain during the night, and there was water in the shoes, and the coat was somewhat shrunk. Benjamin tried the tam o' shanter, but it was too big for him. Then he suggested that they should fill the handkerchief with onions as a little present for his aunt. Peter did not seem to be enjoying himself. He kept hearing noises. Benjamin, on contrary, was perfectly at home and ate the lettuce leaf. He said that he had the habit of coming to the garden with his father for their Sunday dinner. The name of little Benjamin's papa was Old Mr. Benjamin Bunny. The lettuce were certainly very fine. Peter did not eat anything. He said he should like to go home. Presently, he dropped half the onions. Little Benjamin said that it was not possible to get back up the pear tree with a load of vegetables. He led the way boldly towards the other end of the garden. They walked along on planks under a sunny red brick wall. The mice sat on their doorsteps, cracking cherry stones. They winked at Peter Rabbit and Benjamin Bunny. Presently, Peter let the pocket handkerchief go again. Benjamin Rabbit was stepping 1 or 2 steps in front of his cousin when he suddenly stopped. This is what those little rabbits saw round the corner. He took one look, and then, in less than no time, he hid himself and Peter and the onions under a large basket. Oh, the cat! The cat got up and stretched herself and came and sniffed at the basket. Perhaps she liked the smell of onions. Anyway, she sat down upon the top of the basket. She sat there for 5 hours. It was quite dark, and the smell of onions was fearful. It made Peter and Benjamin cry. The sun got round behind the wood, and it was quite late in the afternoon, but still the cat sat upon the basket. At length there was a pitter-patter, and some bits of mortar fell from the wall above. The cat looked up and saw old Mr. Benjamin Bunny prancing along the top of the wall of the upper terrace. He was smoking a pipe of rabbit tobacco and had a little switch in his hand. He was looking for his son. Old Mr. Bunny had no opinion whatever of cats. He took a tremendous jump off the top of the wall onto the top of the cat and cuffed it off the basket and kicked the cat into the greenhouse, scratching off a handful of fur. The cat was too much surprised with shock to scratch back. When old Mr. Bunny had driven the cat into the greenhouse, he locked the door. Then old Mr. Benjamin Bunny took out the handkerchief of onions and marched out of the garden. He came back and took out his son Benjamin by his ears and whipped him with the little switch. Then he took out his nephew Peter. When Mr. McGregor returned about half an hour later, he observed several things which perplexed him. It looked as though some person had been walking all over the garden in a pair of clogs. Only the footmarks were too ridiculously little. Also, he couldn't understand how the cat could have managed to shut herself up inside the greenhouse, locking the door upon the outside. When Peter got home, his mother forgave him because she was so glad to see that he had found his coat and shoes. Cottontail and Peter folded up the hanky, and old Mrs. Rabbit strung up the onions and hung them from the kitchen ceiling with the branches of herbs and the rabbit tobacco. Coming to the conclusion part of the classics, I assume and hope you would have really enjoyed them. My next video will be based on grammar. It will be from a different classic, as I would like to introduce some active grammar using new vocabulary based sentences and paragraphs, and understanding synonyms and to replace synonyms and the usage of tenses. If any of you want to learn any other grammar part, you are most welcome to post on the comment section. See you very soon with another grammarous episode. Thank you for watching the video.